Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Well, that's kind of sad because I don't have a whole lot to say this one listening to it anyway. But I do know that I cannot hold the whole board and talking about facts or living facts. They're just real quick so that you have to play together. First of all, has anybody ever been involved in that fact? Has everybody in here been in a concrete industry for more than 20 minutes? Okay, so you people that have been in a concrete industry, everybody didn't raise their hands all over this. If you have not been in a concrete for more than 20 minutes, you should have been into a concrete crack. How many people think it cracks a lot, all the time? How many people think there's all right cracks? So most of us think we're been in the industry for more than about 20 minutes. It can't really stand firm. Now, back to this. How many times have you been in that situation with a big crack? Somebody has a case of crack, do something, whatever, you got somebody has. So here's the thing. You got concrete. Typically, somebody will say, they'll look at the contractor and I can take them off. After a case of crack. What's the first question? What did I do? What I did do in the subject. That is the first thing we should ask. What did I do wrong? Contractor, material supplier, subcontractor. What did I do? So, I think the one thing we need to think about is being responsible for that. Get the evidence, do things, you see, I think we need to change this to rather than tracking the transaction. So, most of us realize the concrete work out there.
Now, what is a crack? It's a separation of concrete. Now, I'm going to make a real simple statement that's very complex. It occurs when a simple stress exceeds operating compression, it's forward tension, and so you can get cracks as a result of external or internal forces. I want to make sure I'm clear on this. You can have a concrete slab. You can have a concrete element that has no loading. It can be shaped. You still can get cracks that have lots of reasons for concrete to crack. Next thing I want to talk about is crack. These are all the descriptions we have of concrete crack. There's more depth. Now, the ones that I really like is that, well, typically, if you go to the crack, you can stick your hand down in the crack. Not touch the side. Touch the layer. The other side of that is if you come on that same project and the engineer look at it, and you can really see it. You sit down and brush off, take a little light. You know, these terms get kind of changed as a part of it. But the thing I want to introduce you to is an architecture crack. The next time you go on a project, when you have a crack, and somebody talking about what are you going to tell them? Hey, this is an architectural crack. This crack is in there, but it gives the structure some character. And if you look here, we go on to look perfect, but we did install several architectural cracks in concrete so that we get the appropriate look for this. Now, everybody in the room knows concrete is going to crack, right? But if you know concrete can crack, what do you do? You can do several things. You can cut joints in it. But if you cut joints in concrete, do you really stop it from cracking? You rotate the crack. You put your crack in the rotation. If you put your influence in, you start cracking. These are Carry the loads and other things. You can use pre-stressed concrete. Okay, you can use pre-stressed concrete, but if you use pre-tension, pre-cast concrete, you can put those elements together. And typically, when you put them together, you will put it together. Many times, and let it crack where it needs to crack. Now, let's take a look at this board. If you're cracking this board, you put a carpet on, put your clothes in. So, combine concrete with crack, combine the crack, get rid of it. Now, looking at design, look at managing cracks, looking at the construction process, I kind of look at this as a three-level approach. It's kind of like a three-level school. Things to work out. Everybody's going to do that part. So, well, look at it. In practice, you need everybody doing their part. So the design, big thing, needs to be. This slam on metal deck I mean, it's a bit involved with slab on metal. How many people see a cracked bridge slab on metal? Okay. I could never see that, but part of it, you need to look at what this is going to be. So you design this in accordance with the owner's desires and codes. Should the engineer discuss cracks with the owner? Should he talk about the potential for cracks? Should he talk about the width of cracking, where they may be? And then you got you need to build that. The engineer's doing his job. That's owner's expectations. He's designing the level of tracking. And then you need to build it up. If you have to have a privilege of opening up your subject and looking at it in detail, and that is it's going to play a contract with sharp. If you say that, then if you agree to that, I feel a little problem. So, this is not the case with already carried out. All kind of reasons for concrete practice. First of all, even though and I worked on a project with data, and we had crazy cracks in the console. Data time only has a month to do, and people are asking to do this. It's the structure site. We could have fixed it. We call it that. The answer is that so, technically, 7 million is happy. People are happy with that. And as a result, how they're going to fix it, who's going to fix it, when they're going to fix it, and where they're going to fix it. Now, the question is, concrete industry. Okay, we've already said this, we've got lots of people. We've got people that are involved in more than one thing. Correct? What's the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results in the part of that. So if we understand concrete is going to crack, is that good? Wow. Whoa. I need to get away from this speaker. I'm not going to ask if you can hear me now, because I think if you're in the Aloft Hotel, you can probably hear me now. Okay. So my question is, are we insane? Because we do multiple projects, we go through this same cracking battle time and time and time again. So typically what happens is that we finish the project, we get to a level, we have cracks, somebody doesn't like the cracks, somebody wants the cracks fixed, and we go through that over and over again. Now let me preface this and say that I'm a consultant. Anybody know the definition of a consultant? A consultant is a person that comes to your job site, borrows your watch, tells you what time it is, and sends you a bill. Okay? Nobody lets me come to their job and borrow their watch for a great project. So if there's no problems, nobody's ever said, hey, Calvin, we want you to come and look at this. You know, this job came in under budget, below schedule. Everything is perfect with this. Nobody ever asked me to come out for those. I get to go to the ones where somebody is saying, I'm not happy because, and that because gets to be a lot of different things. So I probably have more of a skewed opinion than many people do, because most of the time when I'm coming out for cracking issues, the concrete's already cracked, and then there's issues about what are we going to do about it, whose fault is it, why did it occur, and those things. So I keep saying, I see this over and over again. We do the same thing over again as far as how we handle this. Now I think this is kind of a problem here. This is a multi-story building. Got the big building over there, parking garage. This is going to make somebody happy. And then we've got these little blow-up of it on the floors. And we can get real complex with this. We've got BIM models. We can walk you through this. Virtual reality of where the desk is going to be and all of this. And this is what we're showing everybody. This is this structure. This is what you're buying, Mr. Owner. And then we build it, and this is kind of what it looks like. So what we tell the owner and what we tell the expectations is this is what this is going to look like. But a lot of times, this is what it looks like. So here's my question. When we're presenting this, and we're talking to the owner, rather than give him this, why don't we give him this? Okay. Why don't we say, those little lines there, oh yeah, they're cracks. Let's just assume for conversation's sake, this is designed in accordance with 318, and Frank here is going to tell you all about that in a few minutes. So, we're going to have some cracks located through this. What if we told the owner that this is kind of what you might be seeing? That's true, but you will get this. Okay. You're exactly right. You will not get the job, or you may not get the job, but I tell you what it will do. It'll open up dialogue. Now, it might not end well, but it will open up dialogue. If you don't like cracks, you're probably not going to like cracks after they've been repaired. Because if you take a crack in reinforced concrete, structural reinforced concrete, many times it's a fine line. Now, typically the way we like to repair cracks is we route about and we put something in. Now, there's other ways, there's architectural ways, but those get very complex. So when you start routing out and you start putting materials in, it looks like this. And let me go back. Slab on metal deck. This is going to be reused as a showroom. Nobody is going to want that in their showroom as a part of that. So, what's the solution to that? Tear it out. Now, nobody's going to believe this, but I've been on projects before where you may tear out 10% of the concrete panels as a result of cracking as a part of this. Okay? So, you've got cracking. Nobody wants it to look like it's a repaired, like it's repaired. This is a new building. The owner doesn't want that. And so you hear this, and then you'll hear the structure, well, I didn't buy cracked concrete. All right. So let's get back to expectations. Most of the time, we don't know what the owner's expectations are pertaining to cracking. We don't typically tell them it's going to crack. We don't review things that reinforced concrete has this capability, and many times reinforced concrete will crack. And then we don't say, we can do some things to control cracking. We can do some things to minimize cracking. We can put additional reinforcing steel in it. We can use a concrete mixture that has different additives in it that will provide lower shrinkage. We can do things like this to limit the cracking. And then the next thing we're going to have to tell him is it costs more. Okay? There is no free lunch in the concrete industry. So when you start doing these things, when you start adding reinforcing steel to control crack width just for the sake of that, when you start getting low shrinkage concrete mix, when you start putting additives in it, when you start using shrinkage compensating concrete, all of these things cost more. And it needs to be up to the owner whether he wants to pay for this. Now, somebody mentioned a minute ago, if I showed that picture of the cracked slab, you're not going to get the job. Okay? That's a good point. But if the owner says, I don't want to pay for cracks, I don't want cracks, I'm not willing to pay for them, that typically doesn't end well. That typically doesn't end well at that point. So one of the things is what is the expectations? If the expectations is that you're not going to have cracked concrete, and you've got something in your project documents that you're going to repair cracks, you might be having a little bit of a problem that's associated with that. So cracking expectations gets to be real important as a part of this. So what if the owner's not happy? He's not happy because of cracks. Now, let's drill down through that a little bit. So let's say I'm on a project and I've got an owner's rep on site. The owner's rep is looking at this. There are cracks there. Doesn't bother him. And then all of a sudden, out of the home office, the executive VP comes through. So those are what I call suits. They come through. Now, whatever their business is probably not concrete construction. Okay? It is typically something else, and they're walking through this. And they're walking through and they're looking down and they see all of these cracks. So then you've got somebody that's saying, I don't know why you accepted this, but this isn't going to happen. I'm not having this. This is cracked concrete. This is not what I want. So the owner is not happy. And then, anybody familiar with the golden rule? The golden rule is very simple. He who has the gold makes the rules. Who has the gold? The owner. Okay? So if the owner's not happy, he may not choose to share his gold. And then if we start talking about things, liquidated damages and things such as that kind of pop up as a result of that. So if the owner's not happy, then something needs to be done to make him happy. And a lot of times he's not looking at a technical exposition. He's not looking at anything. Now the bottom line is nobody that I have ever met wants to tell the owner, hey, you got what you paid for. We designed this in accordance with the codes, local codes, applications. We constructed this in accordance with contract documents. We used the concrete mix, the materials, the reinforcing steel, post-tension, whatever it is. We did all of this stuff, and you've got cracks. Okay, nobody wants to tell the owner that. Nobody wants to tell the owner after the fact that, in essence, you kind of got what you paid for as a part of that. Okay, the owner's opinion. The owner thinks he should be happy. So the owner thinks that he should get a building that meets his desires, even though it doesn't meet project specifications as a part of that. So he thinks he should be if he doesn't like something, he thinks that he or she thinks that they should get this, it should be made right, quote unquote. Now, so the owner says, I cannot accept this. It's not what I want. It's not what I thought I had. You showed me that 3D BIM model. It didn't have cracks in it. So I want this fixed, and I want it fixed at no cost, no impact to schedule. Okay? The only thing I think changes on a project, that never changes on the project, is the schedule never gets extended. If anything ever happens on the schedule, it shortens. Okay? I've never been on one that says, hey, take your time, get this done. So now, you know, the three-legged stool is kind of out of balance. Anybody familiar with Costco? Costco is a big retail. They got stores all over the country. Well, here's the thing about Costco. If I go buy something from Costco and I don't like it, I can take it back. You can go buy that lawnmower, run it for 3 or 4 years in that shape, and you can march that lawnmower right back in that store and they will give you a refund on it. Okay? So one of the mentalities we have in many cases is what I call the Costco mentality. Is the owner bought a building, he's not happy with the building, he doesn't like something in the building, and he wants this to be made right so that it is what his total expectations are as a part of this. So structures and building things typically isn't like that. Now we get to the cool part. Resolution. Problem resolution. So you got the problem. The most important thing to think about a problem is who pays, how do I get someone else to pay, and all problems roll downhill. So I'll give you an example. This is a bridge deck. Bridge deck, South Carolina, 3 pours. Got cracking in the pours. DOT said, too much cracking, don't want to pay for this, I want this fixed. So the contractor, the general contractor, fixes it. Okay? Then he goes to the ready-mix guy and says, by the way, I had to spend a lot of money fixing cracks that was caused by you. Okay, then we get into this. Step right up. Front row seats are always available. So, you know, he says, I need to fix this because of problems caused by you. And so then we say, wait a minute now. This is a DOT job. Now, the South Carolina DOT tells you what mix to use. So they tell you, you've got this cool table, and they tell you what to use. So, you know, they tell you how much cement to put in it, minimum cement, aggregates, gradations, blends, all of that. So they tell you that. Okay, then they have inspectors at the plant. Then you have this documentation you fill out. And you take the job, you take the concrete to the project, and you have these people testing the concrete to determine if the concrete is okay in the plastic state. Then you make test cylinders on it to determine if the concrete is okay in the hardened state. So you have all these inspections. So I'm trying to wrap my head around this. If you tell the concrete producer what he has to do, you give him the mix design, you watch him batch it, you do all of these different things. Wow. Is everybody awake? It was not a fire drill. So, you know, if you go through all of those things, how can you tell him or her this is their problem? So anyway, then, how do you get somebody else to pay? So you see that in many different cases. So kind of looking at things as they progress. The owner didn't buy cracked concrete. Not his intention. Never saw any cracks in any of the things that they were looking at. Cracks look bad. Everybody knows you can't have this many cracks. Now, how many designers do I have in the room? Oh man, we can really pick on y'all. There's not many of you. Okay. How many designers design a crack-free concrete structure? How many? Okay. How many contractors, not counting you, Frank, how many contractors do any type of crack analysis? So, you know, you specify sometimes a shrinkage value. So you want concrete to have no shrinkage. And so do you put that shrinkage value in any type of model or anything that's going to predict crack width? I never have known anybody to. I've asked this question lots of times is, do you design things to be crack-free? Well, the owner's looking at this. Okay, I expect a few cracks, but I don't expect this many. And this many cracks may be 2. Okay. So, you know, somebody screwed up, and it's not me, and I want this fixed. And then you get into what I call, you know, project resolution. So project resolution is when you decide who gets to pay. So the first thing that happens is the owner chats with the engineer. So the golden rule is in effect. Was the structure designed to be crack-free? Can you show me your calculations that shows that? How could you design this with this amount of cracking? Did you talk about joint spacing? Did you mandate anything? But very seldom do I see the engineer gets the privilege of participating in the solution of repairing cracks. I've seen it a few times, but most of the time, it's assumed that it's got some level of cracking. Then you get to the next level. Okay, the next level is the contractor. So the contractor and the owner have a dispute, and it says, the contractor says, don't look at me. I'll follow the drawings and the specifications. Maybe. Again, how many contractors I have? How many of you guys, ladies, have done a project and you have done everything in the specifications? You have abided by the specifications 100%. I don't see anybody raising their hand. I mean, and then, you get into that nasty little thing. You've got this reference ACI 301 and all of these. Well, it's got a whole bunch of requirements. So that's where I kind of get into that maybe. And then the contractor, and it always amazes me, is how smart people get after something happens. So nobody talks about cracks in the beginning, but as cracks form, then the contractor says, hey, I knew it was going to crack. Every project I've done like this is going to crack. It's all concrete cracks. And then the next thing the owner says is, I'm not going to pay you. You got this little cool thing called retainage. Okay. Any contractors have a problem getting their retainage? Let me reword that. Anybody does not have problems getting their retainage as a part of that. So, you got this. And the next thing he says is, hey, I'm getting ready to build 43 more buildings like this. I've got 6 more data centers scattered out across the U.S. If you don't kind of help me out on this, you're not going to do any of those, okay? So that's another part is no more projects for you. So now the contractor's kind of in a position that he needs to make the owner happy. And everybody typically does want to make the owner happy. So then we get to the contractor and the subcontractor. And so you get kind of the same thing. Then the other one you get from the subcontractor, hey, I did what you told me to do. Now, I've seen a couple cases where that's a true statement. I've seen a couple cases where things get behind. The general contractor tells the concrete subcontractor, don't worry about it, you can pour on this muckety-muddy mess here and everything will be all right. And that typically doesn't end well as neither. But I did what you told me to do. And then we get back into this. Well, all concrete cracks. We knew it was going to crack. We talked, everybody knows this. We've done 10 jobs and it cracks. And then you get into this. It's bad concrete. Blame the concrete supplier. Okay. How many ready-mix guys do I have here? Now, have you ever been sucked into a case where concrete cracked and it was your fault? I see a couple nods and I see a couple, either just 2 people have or nobody else wants to admit it as a part of that. So let's blame the concrete supplier. All right. So you got cracks, let's blame the concrete supplier. Well, the next thing is the subcontractor says, and I've heard this a bunch, I'm not asking the owner to accept this. Even if the owner hadn't said anything in many cases. Look at this warehouse. Look at these cracks in there. I'm not going to ask the owner to accept this. Something is wrong. One of you guys did something bad. Either the concrete subcontractor or the ready-mix guy. One of you guys did something bad. And now we're not going to fix it because it looks bad if you fix it. So what's the option? Tear it out. So you tear it out. So you take it out, you put it back in. One of the things I always look for when we get to this point, if you put it back and you change the way you put it back, that's an indication that something was wrong initially or something that was wrong up front. Okay, so the revolution process is the concrete supplier. I provided what was required. I brought you the concrete. I got it there on time. It met the plastic properties. You accepted it. You decided to place it. It met the concrete strength. It exceeded the concrete strength. Nobody requested low-strength concrete. All you asked for was 4,000 psi concrete at 28 days. I gave you that. If you look at the compressor strength results, it's 6,000 psi concrete. So everything is good. I did what I wanted to do. Nobody's willing to pay for low strength concrete. I'm going to make concrete with the materials that I have that's close to me. So I happen to live in an area where I have poor quality aggregates. I have poor quality sand. To get workable concrete, I have to put a lot of water in it, or put a lot of admixtures in it, both of which can affect shrinkage and cracking. Okay? And the concrete was not cracked when it left the plant. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you something about the ready-mix guys. If you come to the second session, there's a guy by the name of Mike Wizenot from the concrete company. But I can tell you how the concrete guys can ship you concrete that will never crack. It's very simple. They leave out the cement. If you leave out the cement, you will not have cracks in concrete, because that nasty cement water paste, that's the thing that's doing the cracking. So if you leave that out, you don't need to attend the rest of this seminar. And so, this is the last person standing. See, I meant the strength, what more do you want? So we're kind of at the end of the line. So my advice to the ready-mix guys is when you get to this situation, you need to call your aggregate suppliers, your cement suppliers, and your admixture suppliers and ask them what they did wrong, because obviously you do not want to be the last person standing as a part of this. So, possible solutions. One is educate the owner. Is educate the owner that most concrete structures are not crack-free. You will get some level of cracking. If you don't get the job, then at least it's on the table. And I'm not so sure if you've got an owner, you're doing a high-rise, and you're designing in accordance to 318, and you know you're going to have to fix all the cracks that occur, or something such as that. That may not be one you want, or you may want to have some extra dollars in there, or you may want to do it just for funsies. Okay? Tell the owner what it's going to cost to manage cracking. If you don't like it, you don't like it in this area. Okay, this is what we can do. These are things we can do. These are options we can do. The operative word is minimize. You will never, ever eliminate cracking. You will minimize cracking. Supply materials that meet the design and expect some cracking. And it's really not a surprise of anybody that's been in the concrete business for more than 20 minutes, as we have proven as we started this seminar, that concrete is going to crack. So, in closing, may your cracks be architectural or invisible, and may the retainage be paid. Thank you very much.